Welcome back to Science in Sleeping. It's always such a quiet joy to know you've chosen to spend your evening here, resting, unwinding, and letting your mind drift gently as we explore together. Tonight, we're drifting through the cosmos, into the great mystery of how galaxies are born, how vast star systems, swirling seas of light, and hidden rivers of dark matter come together to create the immense structures that fill our universe. Now, I know many of you listen with two different intentions. Some of you are here to learn, to be carried on a slow current of fascinating ideas and gentle science. And some of you are simply here to sleep, to let words wash over you like ocean waves, easing your thoughts, calming your body, and giving you permission to rest deeply. Both of these intentions are completely welcome. There's no need to remember any of this in the morning. You can let go of the pressure to focus or to hold on to every fact. The story will still be here tomorrow, waiting patiently, just like the stars. If you're new here, welcome. You're in good company. This little space is becoming a community of nighttime explorers, people who, just like you, find comfort in combining rest with wonder. I often imagine where you might be listening from. Maybe you're lying in a quiet bedroom, the light low, the blankets just right. Maybe you're traveling in a hotel or on a late-night train, or maybe you're halfway around the world, listening under a different sky entirely. I'd love for you to share where you are and what time it is when you listen, because somehow that makes this moment feel even more connected, as though we're all looking up at the same stars. No matter how far apart we are, before we begin our journey tonight, take just a moment to get comfortable. Notice how your body feels against the bed or the couch or wherever you are resting. Allow your shoulders to soften. Let your jaw unclench. Breathe in slowly through your nose and then breathe out gently, like a soft breeze passing through leaves. There's nothing to do now. No urgency, no tasks waiting. This is your time, your permission to rest and to let your mind wander freely. As we drift into the story of galaxies, I'll guide you step by step. Imagine it like a journey across a calm river at night. The boat is steady, the current is gentle, and the stars above us are endless. You can lean back, close your eyes if you wish, and simply listen. There's no rush, no need to stay alert. If sleep comes, let it take you easily. That's part of the design. Tonight, we're focusing on the birth of galaxies. These immense cosmic cities of stars did not appear all at once. They emerged slowly, gradually, in a universe that was once dark and quiet. They are the ancestors of everything we see in the night sky, each one carrying billions of stars, billions of worlds, and mysteries beyond imagination. And so, as we explore how galaxies are born, we are also exploring the story of our own cosmic origins, because our sun, our Earth, and even us are threads woven into this vast, glowing fabric. But before the galaxies came, there was silence in the beginning. There was only the afterglow of the Big Bang, a smooth, expanding sea of energy. It is from this silence that the first whispers of structure arose, invisible patterns that would one day shape into stars and galaxies. And tonight, as you drift, you don't need to picture every detail clearly. Just hold the idea of something vast, something forming gently, patiently, across time. So, let us begin. Settle into the night. Let your breathing slow and your mind soften together. We'll drift through the cosmos, and perhaps, as galaxies take shape in your imagination, your dreams will begin to take shape too. Have you ever wondered how the universe, which began as a nearly uniform ocean of energy, grew into the breathtaking architecture of stars and galaxies we see today? How did a formless beginning transform into a tapestry of glowing clusters, shimmering spirals, and rivers of light stretching across unimaginable distances? It might seem impossible that order could arise from such simplicity, but the truth is that the cosmos is woven together by invisible patterns, subtle threads that guided matter into place, creating the great cosmic web. Imagine, for a moment, that you are floating in space, not near any planet or star, but in the vast in-between. Picture yourself suspended in darkness, and then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, faint lines of light begin to appear. They stretch across the void like strands of silk, delicate and endless, forming a vast, three-dimensional web. At each intersection, where the strands cross, light gathers into brighter knots. These knots are the galaxies, billions of them, shimmering like pearls on an infinite net, and you, drifting quietly among them, can almost feel the stillness of this architecture. The scale so immense it feels more like a dream than a reality. The story of this web begins with the early universe. After the Big Bang, the cosmos was hot, dense, and nearly smooth, like the surface of calm water. But even in that near-perfect smoothness, there were tiny ripples, minute fluctuations in density, almost too small to imagine. These tiny variations were like seeds, and over billions of years, gravity would take those seeds and amplify them, drawing matter into clumps, letting emptiness expand between them, slowly shaping the universe into the grand design we see today. Think of it like baking bread. The dough begins smooth, soft, without clear features, but as it rises and bakes, bubbles of air expand, creating texture, holes, and pockets. The universe behaved in a similar way. Matter gathered in some places, while in others it thinned out. The denser regions pulled in more and more matter, while the emptier regions became great cosmic voids. By the time billions of years had passed, the universe was no longer smooth at all, but filled with vast structures, like foam frozen in time. At the heart of this story lies dark matter, a mysterious substance that does not shine, does not reflect, does not interact with light in any way we can see, and yet dark matter makes up most of the matter in the universe. Without it, galaxies would not exist. Dark matter acts as the scaffolding, the invisible framework on which galaxies are built. If ordinary matter is the plaster that fills the shape, dark matter is the wooden frame that holds the house together. Scientists discovered evidence for dark matter not by seeing it, but by noticing its gravitational effects. Galaxies spin too fast for their visible matter to hold them together. Without an unseen mass, they should have torn themselves apart long ago. It is as though an invisible hand is cradling them, keeping the stars bound in their elegant spirals. Did you know that for every gram of visible matter, like stars, planets, and dust, there are about 5 grams of dark matter? Unseen but essential. Now imagine zooming out even further, past individual galaxies, past clusters of galaxies, until you can see the great web itself. This is the cosmic web. Filaments of dark matter stretching for hundreds of millions of light years, with ordinary matter following along these invisible highways. The galaxies are not scattered randomly, they are arranged in these threads, like glowing beads on cosmic strings. Between them lie voids, vast expanses so empty they span hundreds of millions of light years with almost nothing inside. To drift across one of those voids would be like sailing an endless black ocean with no islands, no stars, no light, only emptiness. The cosmic web is not only a beautiful idea, it is also something astronomers can map using powerful telescopes and computer simulations. They can trace how light from distant quasars, the bright hearts of early galaxies, is absorbed as it passes through intergalactic gas. These patterns reveal the filaments of the web, giving us a picture of the hidden framework of the universe. It is humbling to realize that we live inside this web, our own galaxy, just one pearl on one thread, and all the stories of human history, all of Earth's life, are unfolding inside this vast invisible net. Another way to imagine the web is to think of a spider's creation on a summer morning. The strands are nearly invisible until the dew settles, each droplet catching the light, revealing the pattern. In the same way, galaxies reveal the underlying pattern of dark matter. Without them, the web would remain unseen, but with them, we can glimpse the hidden artistry of the cosmos. Scientists believe that the web is not static, but dynamic. Like rivers flowing, matter continues to stream along the filaments. Galaxies are not fixed, but slowly drifting, pulled by the gravity of clusters and filaments. Over billions of years, galaxies merge, clusters grow larger, and the web continues to evolve. It is like a living organism, pulsing and changing over time. This means that when we look at the universe, we are not seeing a frozen picture, but a moment in an ongoing dance. Galaxies that seem far apart now may one day meet, merge, and form something entirely new. The Milky Way itself, our home galaxy, is slowly moving along one of these filaments, drawn toward a larger structure known as the Virgo cluster, and far beyond that, the entire local group of galaxies is moving toward the even larger Laniakea supercluster. Everything is connected. Everything is flowing, all within the web. As you let these images drift through your mind, you may notice a sense of awe, a gentle wonder at how such vast order could emerge from such simple beginnings. The universe did not need a blueprint drawn by hand. Gravity itself, simple and relentless, sculpted the cosmos into this lace-like design. It is a reminder that beauty can emerge naturally, slowly, and without force, like the patterns of frost on a winter window, or the branching of trees. The universe creates its own art. Perhaps there is comfort in this. The same forces that shaped galaxies also shaped the atoms in your body, the calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the oxygen you breathe. All once followed these cosmic patterns. All of us are, in a way, echoes of the web itself, threads woven into the same vast fabric. And so, as you drift into rest tonight, you might imagine yourself not as separate, not as small, but as a part of this immense design. Each breath you take is like a star flickering in rhythm with the universe. Each heartbeat an echo of gravity's endless pull. You are both the listener and the participant. the observer, and the thread itself. The cosmos is within you as much as you are within it. As we leave this picture of the cosmic web behind, let the image soften in your mind, the strands fading gently, the galaxies glowing like embers in the distance. Ahead of us lies the story of how the first stars lit up the darkness, and how those first lights gathered into the galaxies we see today. For now, take one more slow breath, release it, and let yourself drift onward into the next chapter of our journey. Have you ever tried to imagine true darkness? Not the kind you experience in a bedroom with the curtains closed, or in a cave where no sunlight enters, but a darkness deeper than anything on Earth. A darkness that stretches for billions of light years in every direction. Imagine the universe after its birth, hot and glowing at first, then cooling, dimming, and falling into a silence so complete that not a single star burned. No galaxies shone, no light had yet been born. For nearly 100 million years, the universe was a cosmic night, an endless sea of shadow. Picture yourself floating in that vast silence. There are no stars to guide you, no glimmers to comfort you, only a soft, invisible haze of hydrogen and helium gas stretching endlessly. You drift and wait. And the question lingers like a whisper in the void. When will the first lights appear? What will it feel like when darkness finally breaks? Scientists call this era the cosmic dark ages. It sounds lonely, and in a way, it was. The early universe was filled with potential, but no stars had yet formed. The matter was too smooth, too evenly spread. It needed time for gravity to gather tiny seeds of density into larger clouds. Time for invisible dark matter to pull gas into its scaffolding, slowly, invisibly. The stage was being set for the first great transformation. And then, in that endless dark, something began to stir. The gas clouds grew denser, gravity tugging harder. Hydrogen atoms crowded together, pressing tighter and tighter, until the heat within rose to millions of degrees. And when the pressure became too much, the first stars ignited, bursting into brilliance. Their light cut through the darkness like sparks in a midnight forest. The universe, for the very first time, was illuminated. These first stars were nothing like the stars we see today. They were giants, hundreds of times more massive than our sun. They lived fast and burned furiously. Their light was bright, blue-white, and fierce, pouring energy into the surrounding gas. They lived only a few million years, a blink of an eye compared to the lifespans of modern stars like our sun. And when they died, they did so in spectacular explosions, scattering heavy elements into the universe, seeding the cosmos with the building blocks of future worlds. Imagine watching one of these stars ignite. From the emptiness of the void, a sudden glow swells, faint at first, then brilliant, painting the gas clouds in shimmering light. The silence is broken by radiation pouring into space, ionizing atoms, clearing the fog. As more stars ignite across the darkness, their lights overlap, and what was once a cold void becomes a canvas of shimmering islands. Did you know that without these first stars, we would not exist at all? They created the first carbon, oxygen, iron, and all the heavier elements necessary for life. Before them, the universe contained only hydrogen, helium, and a trace of lithium. Nothing that could form solid planets or breathing organisms. The first stars were alchemists, forging the raw materials of future life in their fiery core. The suspense of this story lies in the transformation. For nearly 100 million years, the universe was waiting in silence, and then suddenly, in just a short span of cosmic time, it awoke. It is as though a theater curtain was drawn back, and the stage was revealed, already prepared with invisible scenery, just waiting for the lights to rise. Now picture yourself standing on a quiet plain at night. The sky above is dark, but you know that somewhere, just beyond the horizon, the first rays of dawn are gathering. You wait, breath held, until a sliver of light appears. Thin and golden, the world changes instantly. Shadows vanish, colors emerge. The first stars were like that dawn, not for a single horizon, but for the entire universe. Their deaths were as important as their lives. When those massive stars exploded as supernova, they scattered their enriched cores across space. Iron from their hearts, carbon from their shells, oxygen from their fusion fires, these elements drifted outward, mixing with the hydrogen around them, ready to be incorporated into new generations of stars. Over time, galaxies began to form, pulling stars together, shaping the brilliant spirals and clusters that we recognize today. But in those early ages, the light was patchy, scattered across the darkness. The process of cosmic reionization, when ultraviolet light from the first stars and galaxies stripped electrons from atoms and cleared the cosmic fog, took hundreds of millions of years. It was as though the universe was waking slowly, eyes opening gradually to the light. To think that we are now able to detect traces of this era is astonishing. Telescopes like the James Webb Space Telescope are already capturing light that has traveled for more than 13 billion years. Photons that left their stars when the universe was only a tiny fraction of its current age. Looking at these faint smudges of light is like peering back into the cosmic nursery. Seeing the first fires ignite, perhaps there is something strangely reassuring in this story. Even the universe needed a long, dark night before its first lights appeared. It reminds us that waiting is not wasted time, that stillness can hold hidden potential. The silence before a beginning is not emptiness, but preparation. A tree waits in its seed. A melody waits in silence. The universe, too, waited, and then bloomed into radiance. As you let this thought drift through your mind, you might feel yourself relaxing even more deeply. Your own life, too, contains dark ages, quiet stretches where nothing seems to happen, where you wait and wonder, but often those times are setting the stage, unseen forces gathering, preparing for sudden illumination, just like the cosmos. Your first lights come when the time is right. Now imagine yourself drifting once more in that early universe. The darkness stretches forever, but then, ahead of you, a glow begins. One, then another, then a dozen. Stars ignite like lanterns across the void. You feel their warmth. Though you cannot touch them, you hear nothing. Yet their silent song fills you with calm. The darkness is no longer lonely. It is alive, dotted with brilliance. The first dawn of the cosmos has come, and you are there, watching, floating, carried gently into the light as this chapter draws to a close. Let the lights fade softly in your mind. Imagine the first stars, burning bright, then dimming, their ashes drifting outward to seed the galaxies to come. Ahead lies the next part of the story, the birth of galaxies themselves. Vast spirals and clusters rising from these early lights. But for now, breathe slowly and rest in the glow of that first cosmic dawn. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to watch the first galaxies come alive? To witness the universe shift from scattered sparks of starlight, organized islands of brilliance? It is almost impossible to imagine, because galaxies, the great cities of the cosmos, are so immense that even our own Milky Way would take 100,000 years to cross at the speed of light. And yet, in the early universe, they began as nothing more than faint gatherings of stars, fragile clusters barely holding together against the pull of gravity and the chaos of their surroundings. Picture yourself drifting through this young universe. The first stars have begun to shine, scattered across the void like campfires in a vast wilderness. But these fires are lonely, separated by immense gulfs of darkness. Slowly, though, gravity begins to weave them together. It is as if unseen hands are gathering sparks, drawing them into larger and larger groups from a distance. You would see clouds of starlight forming, growing brighter, more intricate, until, at last, the first galaxies emerge, glowing islands of order in an ocean of emptiness. The birth of galaxies was not gentle, it was violent and dramatic. Small star clusters collided and merged, gas clouds slammed together, and black holes stirred at their centers. These chaotic dances gave birth to structures far greater than the sum of their parts. Imagine two glowing clusters of stars drifting toward one another. At first, they circle warily, tugging on each other with invisible gravity. Then, like dancers pulled into a sudden embrace, they collide. Stars weave past each other without touching, but the gas and dust between them crash and ignite, forming new stars in furious bursts. The galaxy that emerges is brighter, denser, and more majestic than either of its parents. Did you know that the galaxies we see today, the great spirals and ellipticals, are the result of countless such mergers? The Milky Way itself is a patchwork of smaller galaxies that merged over billions of years. Even right now, it is consuming tiny satellite galaxies, pulling their stars into its spiral arms, and in the future, it will collide with our neighbor, the Andromeda Galaxy, merging into a new, even larger galaxy. The story of galaxies is a story of unending transformation. At the heart of these newborn galaxies were black holes, not the monsters of destruction that popular imagination often conjures, but engines of creation. When gas and stars spiraled into these black holes, energy was released in titanic amounts, jets of radiation shooting out across space. These active black holes, called quasars, shone so brightly that they outshone entire galaxies like cosmic lighthouses. They marked the centers where galaxies were taking shape. Their fierce light signaled that order was forming from chaos. Now imagine watching a galaxy spiral into being. At first, it is a faint, uneven glow. Then, as more stars form, its shape becomes clearer. A spiral arm begins to curl, faint and delicate. Like smoke swirling in slow motion, another arm follows, wrapping around. The galaxy becomes a pinwheel of light, each arm glowing with millions of stars. From your vantage point, it looks alive, breathing, slowly turning in the silence of space. The suspense of this story lies in its scale. For hundreds of millions of years, the universe was dark and quiet. And then, almost suddenly, in cosmic terms, galaxies bloomed everywhere. Imagine looking across the young cosmos and seeing not just one or two, but thousands, then millions, scattered like blossoms across an infinite meadow. The first cosmic night had given way to a dawn so spectacular that it defies comprehension. Scientists have studied this transformation through both observation and simulation. Powerful telescopes capture light from galaxies so distant that their photons began traveling toward us over 13 billion years ago. Computer models recreate the conditions of the early universe, showing how small ripples in matter grew into filaments, how filaments guided gas, how gas birthed stars, and how stars gathered into galaxies again and again. These models reveal a universe that is both chaotic and ordered, both violent and beautiful. One fascinating detail is that early galaxies were very different from the galaxies we see now. They were smaller, clumpier, and more irregular. Instead of neat spirals or smooth ellipses, they looked like glowing fragments, like sparks scattered across black paper. Over time, as they collided and merged, they became the majestic structures we admire in today's sky. It is almost as if the universe began with sketches and drafts, refining its art with each passing billion years, until it created the masterpieces we see now. Perhaps the most astonishing thought is that our own galaxy has been part of this story from the very beginning. Though not in its current form, the Milky Way grew from small clumps of stars, merging, expanding, shaping itself over billions of years. Every star you see in the night sky is a note in this long cosmic symphony, a piece of a story that began with the very first galaxies. There is comfort in this, because the galaxies remind us that beauty can arise from collisions. From what looks like chaos can come order. From violent mergers can come new creation. Just as galaxies grew brighter and more organized after their collisions, so too can our lives sometimes find new harmony after periods of upheaval. The universe is teaching us, gently, that transformation often requires turbulence. Now, take a breath and imagine yourself drifting above a newborn galaxy. Its light glimmers softly, its spiral arms unfurling like ribbons across the dark. You are floating just above it, looking down as it spins slowly, calmly, surrounded by countless others, each galaxy glowing faintly in the distance. The silence is immense, the scale unthinkable. And yet, in this quiet, you feel not small, but connected, woven into the same vast fabric that binds the stars. As galaxies multiplied, the universe entered its age of brilliance. Structures grew larger, clusters formed, superclusters stretched across space. The cosmic web glowed more brightly. It was no longer a lonely void, but a living, pulsing expanse of light. This was the true awakening of the cosmos, the moment when the stage was filled, the actors assembled, and the great drama of galaxies began. Let this image rest gently in your mind. Galaxies rising from chaos, swirling and colliding, growing into luminous islands across the sea of night. The story ahead will take us deeper into their mysteries, into the lives of stars, the birth of solar systems, and eventually, the rise of worlds like our own. But for now, let the galaxies spin quietly in your imagination, turning slowly, endlessly as you drift into calm. Have you ever wondered what a star truly is? Not just the tiny point of light you see in the night sky, but the living heart of the universe, pulsing, breathing, and carrying within it the power to create everything you have ever known. A star is not just a ball of fire. It is a forge, a laboratory, a storyteller that speaks across billions of years. And tonight, we will drift into the lives of stars, from their quiet beginnings to their dramatic endings. Imagine floating through the arms of a galaxy. You pass through dark clouds of gas and dust, vast regions so thick they blot out the starlight behind them. At first, they seem silent, empty, but within these clouds, something is happening. Gravity is tugging ever so gently, pulling atoms closer together. As the clouds grow denser, their hearts begin to glow. Like embers hidden inside smoke, you are witnessing the birth of a star. The process is slow, stretching over millions of years. A simple gas cloud becomes unstable, folds inward and collapses. The pressure rises. The heat grows until, at last, hydrogen atoms inside collide with such force that they fuse together. In that instant, nuclear fire ignites, and a star is born. It is like striking a match in the deepest cave. The darkness is pierced, and the glow spreads outward. Stars live extraordinary lives. Some are small and dim, like red dwarfs, flickering quietly for trillions of years. Others are enormous and bright, burning furiously, living fast and dying young. Our sun is a middle star, steady, calm, and reliable, with a lifetime of around 10 billion years. In its core, hydrogen atoms fuse to form helium, releasing energy that streams outward. This energy travels slowly, taking thousands, even millions of years to reach the surface, and then it bursts free as light, the very same light that warms your face on a summer morning. Did you know that the light shining from our sun today may have begun its journey at the sun's core millions of years ago, bouncing, colliding, scattering, until it finally escaped? Every ray of light carries the memory of that long journey, and every breath of air you take depends on it. Without stars, there would be no warmth, no light, and no life. But stars do more than shine. Inside their cores, they are alchemists for millions and billions of years. They fuse hydrogen into helium. Then, when the hydrogen runs low, some stars grow hotter and begin fusing helium into heavier elements, carbon and oxygen, in the hearts of massive stars. The process continues, forging neon, magnesium, silicon, even iron. Each element that makes up your body, the calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the oxygen you breathe, was once created in the heart of a star. Stars are not just distant lights. They are your ancestors, and yet the life of a star is not eternal. When stars grow old, they change dramatically. Small stars fade gently, shrinking into dim embers called white dwarfs. Slowly cooling, they glow faintly for billions of years, before vanishing into darkness. Larger stars end in fire. When a giant star has fused all it can, its core collapses under its own weight, and in a heartbeat it explodes, a supernova, brighter than billions of stars, tearing itself apart. The explosion scatters the star's forged elements into space, seeding the galaxy with the materials for new stars, new planets, and eventually new life. Imagine drifting near such an event. First, the star swells, becoming unstable. Then, in an instant, it erupts, a wave of light, so powerful it could outshine the galaxy for weeks. The shock wave ripples through space, carrying clouds of iron, gold, carbon, and oxygen. You would feel the enormity of the moment, the beauty and the terror intertwined, a cosmic death that is also a cosmic birth. Some stars end even more dramatically, collapsing into black holes, so dense that not even light can escape. These black holes become the dark hearts of galaxies, pulling in matter, shaping stars around them. Others collapse into neutron stars, so compact that a teaspoon of their matter would weigh billions of tons. These stellar remnants are extreme, alien, and mysterious. Yet even they play their part in the great cosmic cycle. Think of this cycle as a cosmic heartbeat. Stars are born, they shine, they die, and in their deaths they give birth to new stars, new systems, new possibilities. Galaxies breathe through their stars, endlessly renewing, endlessly transforming. This rhythm has continued for over 13 billion years, and it will continue long after we are gone. Perhaps there is comfort in this rhythm. Just as stars live through cycles of birth and death, so too do our lives pass through seasons, beginnings, middles, and ends. The stars remind us that endings are not final, but transformations, that even in collapse, there is creation, even in death, there is renewal. Now, let yourself imagine lying beneath a night sky. Millions of stars glow above you, silent, steady. Each one has a story. Each one has lived, or is living, or will die. And in their stories, you find your own reflection. You are stardust, shaped by the very processes you are now imagining. You are, in truth, the universe, remembering itself through your eyes. As you breathe slowly, let this thought settle. You are part of something ancient and ongoing. Your life is connected to the lives of stars, to their fire, their brilliance, their endings, and their gifts. The cosmos is not distant. It is within you, pulsing in your heartbeat, glowing in your blood, shimmering in your breath. And so, as we leave the story of stars behind, let their light remain with you. Imagine them burning softly in your dreams, their fire-shaping worlds, their deaths scattering seeds. Ahead lies another mystery, the story of how planets, worlds like ours, emerge from the dust of stars. For now, rest in the warmth of starlight. Let it surround you, calm you, and carry you deeper into peace. Have you ever wondered how the worlds we walk upon first came to be? Have you thought about the ground beneath your feet, solid and steady, and asked yourself how it began as nothing more than drifting dust in space? The journey from stardust to a living planet is one of the most extraordinary stories the universe has ever written, and tonight we will float into that mystery together. Imagine yourself gliding near a newborn star, still surrounded by a great, swirling disk of gas and dust. The star shines brightly at the center, but around it spins a vast ring, stretching for billions of miles. It looks like smoke, but in truth, it is made of countless grains of dust, ice, and rock, each one tiny. But together they hold the promise of entire worlds. You drift through this disk slowly, and as you watch, you notice that the particles are not still. They are colliding, sticking, clumping together. At first, it seems almost accidental. Two grains touch, and they remain together. Then others join them, and slowly, what was once dust begins to form pebbles. And pebbles become rocks, and over millions of years, these rocks grow into mountains, into bodies, hundreds of miles across. They sweep up more material as they orbit, growing larger, stronger, more defined. This is the beginning of a planet. The process is called accretion, but in truth it feels like a kind of cosmic dance, a graceful gathering of particles, pulled together by the silent hand of gravity. Each collision adds to the whole, and slowly, new worlds emerge. Some become rocky planets, like Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, small, solid, close to their star. Others grow into gas giants, like Jupiter and Saturn, vast spheres with thick atmospheres, swirling storms, and hidden cores beyond them. Icy worlds take shape, frozen guardians at the edge of their solar systems. As you drift through this forming system, you can feel the suspense. Will these worlds survive, or will they be destroyed? For the early days of planetary birth are violent. Asteroids crash, comets slam into surfaces. Entire worlds can be shattered in an instant. Sometimes two growing planets collide, merging into a single larger one, other times breaking each other apart. It is chaos, yet out of that chaos, order slowly emerges. Did you know that Earth itself may have been struck by a Mars-sized body early in its history? The impact was so great that it tore away part of Earth's mantle, hurling it into orbit. Over time, those fragments gathered and became the moon. Without that collision, without that chaos, we might never have had tides, or the stable seasons that the moon helps regulate. What seems like destruction was, in truth, creation. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine standing on one of these newborn worlds. The surface is molten, glowing red, with rivers of lava. The air is thick with poisonous gases. Meteors rain down from the sky. Yet, in time, the world cools. The lava hardens into crust. Rain falls, oceans form, atmospheres build, and a new planet begins to breathe its first quiet breaths. It is raw, untamed, but it is ready to evolve. Our own Earth followed this path for billions of years. It transformed from a fiery ball into a blue ocean world. And within those oceans, life found its first foothold. It is astonishing to realize that every flower, every tree, every creature, even you yourself, all exist because of the dust and gas that once spun around a newborn star. Some planets, however, take different paths. Some remain barren deserts. Like Mars, silent and red, others are gas giants, where no solid surface exists, only endless clouds and storms. Jupiter, for example, carries the great red spot, a storm so vast it could swallow Earth's whole, and it has raged for centuries. Saturn, with its shimmering rings, looks delicate, yet it hides a powerful world beneath its beauty. The planets of every solar system are unique, shaped by chance, by collisions, by timing. Now imagine moving beyond our solar system, drifting toward distant stars. Around each one, disks of dust and gas swirl. Some form worlds similar to ours, rocky and warm. Others form strange planets beyond imagination, worlds made of diamond, planets with skies of molten glass, oceans of liquid methane, or surfaces scorched so hot that metals rain from the skies. The universe is endlessly inventive, creating not just Earths, but endless variations. Scientists call these distant planets exoplanets, and thousands have already been discovered. Some orbit close to their stars, so close that their years last only a few days. Others drift far away, frozen in endless winter. Some are caught in the delicate region where water can remain liquid, the so-called habitable zone. Perhaps, somewhere among them, life stirs, looking up at its sky and wondering if it is alone, just as we do as you float among these worlds. Let yourself feel the wonder of it. Planets are not rare, they are everywhere. The Milky Way alone may hold billions, perhaps trillions of planets, each one unique, each one carrying its own mysteries, its own potential. The Earth beneath you tonight is but one story among countless others, and yet our story feels so personal because here, on this small blue world, dust became life, and that life became conscious, and that consciousness now looks back into the stars, tracing its origins, wondering at its place in the grand cycle. You are part of the dust that became planets, part of the elements forged in stars, and part of the mystery that continues to unfold. So, as you breathe gently now, imagine yourself standing on the surface of a newborn planet. The air is thick, the ground still warm, the sky glows with comets and meteors streaking above. It is dangerous, yet beautiful, and in the silence, you sense the potential, the waiting, the promise that one day this place might hold oceans, forests, perhaps even beings who look up at their stars. The universe is patient. It takes billions of years to write its stories, and yet here you are, reading one of its chapters. Let yourself drift with this thought. Worlds are not fixed. They are born. They change. They evolve. They rise from dust, are shaped by fire, and cooled by time, and so to do our lives. We rise from beginnings, are shaped by storms, and in time we find our calm. The universe writes its story in planets, but it also writes it in you as we leave this module. Imagine yourself floating away from the young planet you've been watching, drifting outward past its star, past its siblings, past the ring of icy comets at the edge. Ahead lies another mystery, the story of how life itself can emerge from the seas of a planet, fragile, delicate, and yet resilient. For now, rest in the comfort of knowing that even the ground beneath you was once stardust, that your very being is a continuation of this cosmic story, carried through billions of years to this quiet moment. Have you ever wondered when the first breath of life stirred upon our planet? When the silent oceans, once only filled with minerals and elements, suddenly began to whisper with motion? When did chemistry become biology? When did matter begin to awaken? The story of life's beginning is one of the most mysterious and awe-inspiring tales the universe has ever written, and tonight we will drift into its depths. Picture yourself standing on a newborn Earth. The surface is still raw, volcanic, steaming with heat. Lightning flashes in storm-filled skies. Meteors streak down from above. Oceans churn beneath thick clouds. These waters are not yet calm blue seas. They are chemical cauldrons, rich with carbon, nitrogen, sulfur, and phosphorus, The building blocks of life are scattered everywhere, waiting to be gathered. The scene is violent, but within that violence lies possibility. Imagine lightning splitting the sky, striking the ocean's surface. In that brief spark, molecules rearrange, forming amino acids, simple chains that are the seeds of proteins. Rain continues to fall, carrying these molecules into pools and rivers. Each drop brings together new combinations. And over millions of years, simple chemistry becomes complex. Did you know that some scientists believe comets may have delivered key ingredients to Earth? Comets, those icy travelers of space, may have carried organic molecules across light years, delivering them like gifts to a young world. Imagine them crashing into the oceans, releasing compounds that had drifted for eons. It is as if the universe itself wanted life to begin here, planting seeds in the soil of Earth's waters. Now imagine watching as molecules in those oceans begin to join into larger and more intricate forms. Chains fold into patterns. Bubbles of lipids surround clusters, creating tiny spheres. Inside these spheres, reactions take place, controlled and repeated. These tiny bubbles are not alive, not yet, but they are stepping stones. They are the first whispers of the cell. Cells are the foundation of life. Every leaf, every bird, every human being is made of cells. But the first cell was the most important of all. How did lifeless matter arrange itself into a container capable of copying itself, capable of feeding, capable of dividing? The exact process remains a mystery. But we know that somehow chemistry crossed the threshold into biology. It was not sudden, but gradual, like dawn rising over an ocean. And once that threshold was crossed, life began to multiply. Imagine drifting through those ancient oceans. Billions of years ago, the waters are cloudy, filled with simple, single-celled organisms. They float, divide, and spread, invisible to the eye. But transforming the planet slowly, some learn to harness energy from chemicals, others from sunlight. Photosynthesis is born, and oxygen begins to fill the air. This was one of the most dramatic shifts in Earth's history. For billions of years, the skies had been empty of oxygen. Then, as life grew and spread, oxygen flooded the atmosphere, turning the planet from hostile to habitable. You breathe that oxygen now. Every breath a direct gift from ancient microbes that first learned to turn sunlight into energy. In a sense, you are still breathing their legacy. But the story does not end with single cells within the oceans. Some of these simple forms began to cooperate. They joined together, forming colonies, and in time, some of these colonies became so connected that they functioned as one. The first multicellular organisms were born from these simple beginnings. Complexity grew: sponges, corals, worms, and eventually creatures with eyes, limbs, and nervous systems. Imagine the suspense of those moments, the ocean floors stirring with strange new forms, each one an experiment in possibility. Some survived, some vanished. Some learned to move, others to sense light. The earth became a canvas upon which evolution painted endlessly. With each brushstroke, life became more intricate. Did you know that for most of Earth's history, there were no animals, no trees, no birds? For billions of years, life was microscopic. Only in the last 600 million years did it explode into the variety we recognize. If the entire history of Earth were compressed into a single day, complex animals would only appear in the last few minutes before midnight. Humanity itself would appear in the final seconds. You are part of a story that is still being written. And from these tiny beginnings came something even more mysterious. Consciousness. How did life not only survive and reproduce, but begin to feel, to sense, to wonder? The first nervous systems allowed creatures to move, to react, to avoid danger. Over millions of years, brains grew larger, more complex, until one day, awareness looked back at itself. A being stood beneath the stars and asked, "What am I? Why am I here?" Perhaps that is the greatest spark of all. Not just the spark of chemistry that created cells, but the spark of thought that created wonder. You are the child of this long story, born from the oceans, shaped by evolution, carrying in your mind the ability to dream and imagine. The consciousness that now listens to these words is the direct descendant of molecules that once floated in a stormy sea. Let yourself reflect on this. The story of life is not separate from you, it is your story. Every heartbeat carries the rhythm of ancient oceans. Every breath carries the gift of the first cells that filled the skies with oxygen. Every thought you have is the continuation of billions of years of trial, error, and creation. And so, as you rest tonight, imagine yourself drifting on the surface of that primordial ocean. The waves are dark and heavy. Storms roll overhead, but beneath the surface, molecules are joining, cells are dividing, life is stirring. You feel the tension, the suspense, as if the planet itself is holding its breath, waiting for life to take hold. And then, softly, gently, the first spark arrives, and the earth is forever changed. You are the inheritor of that spark. The consciousness in you tonight is not separate. It is its awakening, its reflection, its dream. And just as the universe carried life from dust to thought, so too will it carry you gently now, from wakefulness to sleep. As we leave this module, imagine drifting slowly away from the newborn seas. Above you, the stars glow. Below you, the waters shimmer with the beginnings of life. Ahead lies the next great chapter, the rise of complexity, the march of evolution, and the blossoming of worlds filled with creatures. For now, let your breath slow, let your mind rest, and let the spark of life remind you that even in the darkest oceans, the universe finds a way to shine. Have you ever wondered how life moved from simple, tiny cells to the breathtaking variety of creatures that swim, crawl, and fly? How the ocean, once filled only with invisible forms, became a stage for endless experiments in design. The story of evolution is not only a scientific tale, it is a poem written in time, with suspense, triumph, and tragedy woven into every line. Imagine yourself drifting once again through those ancient seas. For billions of years, life remained simple, single cells floating quietly, multiplying without eyes, without limbs, without voices. The world was alive, but in silence. Then, something began to change. Some cells discovered the power of cooperation. They joined together, sharing tasks, dividing responsibilities. One part became specialized for movement, another for sensing the world, another for feeding, and from this collaboration, multicellular life was born. At first, these creatures were soft and strange. clusters of cells forming simple shapes. They lived in oceans that were dark and filled with chemical haze. But slowly, as oxygen filled the atmosphere and the waters, possibilities expanded. With oxygen came energy, with energy came growth, and with growth came complexity. Imagine standing on the ocean floor about 600 million years ago. The water is clear now, lit by sunlight streaming down. Strange forms drift in the currents, jelly-like creatures with fronds and branches. These were the Ediacaran organisms, some shaped like leaves, others like discs. They had no bones, no shells, no faces. Their forms were soft and ghostly, almost dreamlike. They were experiments, early sketches in life's book. Many would vanish, leaving no descendants, but they paved the way for what came next. Then, in an astonishing burst of creativity, life exploded. This event is known as the Cambrian explosion, a time when the oceans became suddenly crowded with new and bizarre creatures. Imagine swimming among them. Some had hard shells, glittering with armor. Others had claws, eyes, and spines. There were trilobites crawling on the seafloor, strange worms with rows of teeth, and giant predators like Anomalocaris with grasping limbs and circular jaws. It was a time of suspense, of danger and opportunity. The rules of survival were being written, and every creature was both hunter and hunted. Did you know that during this period, eyes appeared for the very first time? Before this, life could only sense light and dark, but now creatures could truly see. They could spot predators, chase prey, and navigate their world with new awareness. The invention of sight transformed evolution, leading to an arms race of defense and attack. Armor against teeth, speed against stealth. As you float through these ancient seas, you might feel both wonder and unease. The variety is astonishing, but the struggle is constant. Each creature must adapt or vanish, and many do vanish, for evolution is not gentle, it is relentless. Yet within its relentlessness, beauty arises. Over millions of years, life grew more complex. Fish developed backbones, fins, and jaws. Coral reefs began to appear, building vast underwater cities that housed endless varieties of life. Plants appeared on land, turning barren rock into green landscapes. And then, in one of the most suspenseful chapters of all, creatures began to follow them, leaving the safety of the oceans to walk upon solid ground. Imagine the courage of that moment. A fish with strong fins pulls itself onto a muddy shore. Gasping, struggling, yet determined, its fins slowly transform into legs, its gills into lungs. The first amphibians emerge, ancestors of every reptile, bird, and mammal to come. The world that had been silent for billions of years now echoes with the sound of footsteps, of breathing, of movement on land. Did you know that without plants colonizing land first, animals could not have followed? The plants built soil, produced oxygen, and created shade, preparing the way. Life does not evolve in isolation. It evolves in a web, each part making the next possible. You are part of that web too. Your existence made possible by countless ancestors you will never meet. As time unfolded, evolution continued its dance. Reptiles grew scales to survive dry climates. Insects developed wings and filled the skies. Some creatures grew enormous, ruling the land and sea with thunderous power. Others remained small, hiding in the shadows. Each adaptation was a response to challenge, to opportunity, to change. Evolution is not a straight path, but a branching tree. Some branches flourishing, others ending. Perhaps the greatest suspense lies in the fact that none of this was guaranteed. At several points, life nearly ended. Mass extinctions wiped out most species. Volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, shifting climates, yet each time life found a way. Those that survived adapted, changed, and blossomed into new forms. In loss, there was always renewal. The tree of life never stopped growing. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the passage of time. Millions of years rushing by like the turning of pages. You see oceans filling with trilobites, then emptying as they vanish. You see giant ferns covering the land, then fading. You see creatures with wings taking to the air for the first time. The story is long, vast, and filled with suspense. Yet here you are, one of its latest chapters. And in this dance of evolution, there is a lesson. Life adapts, life changes, life endures. Just as those ancient creatures found ways to survive storms, predators, and extinctions, so too we face challenges and find ways to adapt. The rhythm of survival is written into your very being, in your bones, in your breath. In the spark of awareness that listens to these words, as you drift deeper into rest, imagine yourself standing once more on that ancient shore, watching the first creatures crawl from the sea. Their bodies are awkward, their movements uncertain, yet in them lies the future. Forests filled with birds, plains filled with mammals, skies filled with voices. In their uncertain steps lies the promise of you. The dance of evolution is still unfolding. Every species alive today is part of it, including you. The journey that began with simple molecules in a stormy ocean has led to consciousness gazing at the stars. The story is not over, it is still being written, and you are a line in its endless poem. And now, as we close this module, let yourself rest in the comfort of continuity. The same forces that shaped the trilobite, the fish, and the bird are within you. The same resilience, the same capacity for change. The story of evolution is not just about the past. It is about the present moment, and it is about the future still to come. Ahead lies another chapter, the age of giants, the reign of the dinosaurs, and the mysteries of extinction and renewal. For now, breathe gently. Let the dance of life guide you into deeper calm, and know that you are part of something timeless. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to walk among giants? To hear the ground tremble beneath the footsteps of creatures so massive that they seemed more like mountains than animals. To gaze into the eyes of beings who ruled the earth for over 160 million years. The age of the dinosaurs is a chapter of life's story filled with wonder, suspense, and mystery. And tonight, we drift into that ancient world. Imagine standing in a lush forest 200 million years ago. The air is warm, heavy with moisture. Ferns stretch higher than houses. Towering conifers rise into the mist. The sounds of insects buzz around you. And then, in the distance, you hear it. The trees sway as something vast passes through them. A creature steps into the clearing. its neck stretching upward, its body longer than a train. It is a sauropod, one of the great plant eaters. Its every movement seems impossibly slow, yet full of strength. It lowers its head to strip leaves from a tree, and with that simple gesture, you realize you are in a world built for giants. But not all dinosaurs were gentle grazers. In the shadows lurked predators, swift and cunning. Imagine the suspense of hearing sharp footsteps behind you, turning to see a pack of small but fierce hunters, their claws clicking against the ground, their eyes alert and calculating. They are raptors, moving with deadly coordination. The forest becomes a stage of survival. Predator and prey locked in an endless dance over millions of years. Dinosaurs adapted to every corner of the earth. Some grew armored plates, spikes, and tails like clubs. Others developed frills and horns, defenses that were as beautiful as they were formidable. Some became as small as chickens, darting through underbrush, while others soared in the skies, for not all dinosaurs remained on the ground. Out of this age came the first true birds, delicate wings rising into the air, carrying the legacy of dinosaurs into the heavens. Did you know that birds are living dinosaurs? Every sparrow, every eagle, every songbird you hear today is a direct descendant of those ancient creatures. They carry the story forward in feathers and flight, whispering that extinction is never complete. Transformation is always possible. The world of dinosaurs was not static. Continents shifted, climates changed, oceans rose and fell, and through it all, dinosaurs endured. They became the undisputed rulers of Earth. Their reign lasted so long that if human history were a single page, the age of dinosaurs would be an entire book. Yet, despite their power, despite their dominance, their story ended. And here lies the suspense. For what could bring down such giants? For a long time, it was a mystery. But now, the evidence tells a dramatic tale. Imagine looking up into the sky 66 million years ago. The world is calm, forests thrive, seas sparkle, dinosaurs roam without fear. Then a light appears, brighter than the sun. It grows larger, closer, until the sky itself seems to burn. A massive asteroid, miles wide, slams into Earth. The impact is catastrophic. The ground shakes with unimaginable force. Shockwaves ripple across continents. The ocean boils as tsunamis rise higher than mountains. Forests ignite, skies darken with dust. Within days, the world is transformed. The sun disappears behind clouds of ash. Temperatures plummet. Plants wither without light. Herbivores starve. Predators follow. In a short time, the age of giants ends. 3 out of every 4 species vanish, including nearly all dinosaurs. It is one of the greatest extinctions in Earth's history. And yet, in this devastation lies a strange beauty. For extinction is not only an ending, it is also a doorway. The loss of the dinosaurs opened niches for new creatures to rise. Small mammals, once hiding in the shadows, now stepped forward. They began to grow, to diversify, to explore. Without the asteroid, without the end of the giants, there may never have been humans at all. Reflect for a moment on this mystery. The mightiest creatures to walk the earth fell not to predators or famine, but to a chance impact from the stars, a reminder that life is fragile, that even the powerful are vulnerable, and yet It is also a reminder that life is resilient. For from the ashes of loss, new beginnings emerge. Close your eyes now and imagine walking across the silent land just after the extinction. The forests are charred. The air is heavy with dust. The earth is quiet in its mourning. But then, look closer. Small mammals scurry among the ruins. Birds call from the branches that still stand. Life is already beginning again. Seeds sprout, rivers flow. The earth heals, slowly but surely. Did you know that many scientists believe the asteroid that ended the age of dinosaurs landed near what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico? The crater, called Chicxulub, still exists, buried beneath rock and sea, a scar that tells the story of that cataclysm. When you hear the call of a bird or see a mammal run, you are hearing the echoes of survival, the whispers of life that refused to end. And perhaps there is comfort in this. The story of the dinosaurs is not simply one of loss, but of continuity. They ruled, they fell, but part of them lives on in the wings of birds, and part of their absence made space for you. In the cosmic balance, endings are never final. They are transformations as you breathe slowly now. Imagine yourself lying beneath a sky where once the giants walked. The stars shine above, the same stars that watched over them, the same stars that watched their fall. The earth turns quietly, carrying you as it once carried them. You are part of the same story, fragile, powerful, fleeting, eternal. And as we leave this module, let the footsteps of the dinosaurs fade into the distance. Feel the ground steady beneath you, no longer trembling with giants. Ahead lies the story of those who rose after them, the mammals who would reshape the world, and the unfolding path that would eventually lead to you. For now, let the memory of giants lull you into stillness, and let the mystery of extinction remind you that even in endings, there is always the promise of a new beginning. Have you ever wondered how creatures as small and unremarkable as early mammals could one day inherit the earth? How could beings who once scurried in the shadows of dinosaurs rise to dominate the planet, shaping forests, seas, skies, and eventually human destiny? Tonight, we travel into that chapter of life's story, a chapter where quiet persistence outlived giants, and tiny hearts carried forward the future of all we know. Picture the earth just after the great extinction. The world is scarred, skies heavy with dust, forests burned to ash, oceans still trembling with the echoes of a world that ended. The giants are gone, and silence rules the land. Yet in this silence, there are whispers of survival. Small creatures emerge cautiously, their bodies low to the ground, eyes scanning for threats. These are mammals, once forced to live in the margins, beneath the notice of predators too great to challenge. Now, in this emptied world, they begin to move freely. Imagine one of these early mammals. No larger than a rat, it creeps along the forest floor, scavenging seeds and insects. Its fur bristles against the cold. For the world has grown colder now that the skies are darkened. It shelters in burrows, curls around its young, and survives day by day. Nothing about it suggests that one day its descendants will command oceans, invent language, split the atom, and walk among the stars. And yet, in its beating heart lies the blueprint of resilience. Mammals possessed something unique. something subtle but powerful. They were warm-blooded, carrying the fire of life inside. They were adaptable, able to eat many foods, live in many climates, protect their fragile young with care, unlike reptiles, who laid their eggs and left them vulnerable. Mammals nurtured their offspring, fed them with milk, carried them close. This care meant survival. It meant that in a world of upheaval, tiny families could grow stronger together. Did you know that some early mammals had already begun developing traits we see today? Some grew gliding membranes like flying squirrels, leaping from tree to tree. Others adapted sharp teeth to crush beetles or shells. Some even swam through rivers, nibbling on plants. They were experimenters, trying every path the earth allowed. Where dinosaurs had dominated in grand, singular forms, mammals diversified into endless shapes. The suspense of this age lies in its uncertainty. Imagine millions of years unfolding where no creature knew what the future would hold. Dinosaurs had once seemed eternal, but they vanished in a breath. Would mammals endure? Or would another kind of creature rise? In those shadowy forests, anything seemed possible. Evolution's dice were rolling. Over time, the skies cleared, the forests returned. The earth warmed again, and life flourished. With each passing million years, mammals grew bolder. Some grew larger, no longer needing to hide. Imagine a creature the size of a dog prowling through the underbrush, hunting insects and small reptiles. Others took to the trees, swinging from branch to branch. Still others returned to the seas, forming the earliest ancestors of whales. Mammals became explorers of every niche. The great suspense came with the rise of predators among them. For survival is never peaceful for long. Out of the quiet came the first mammalian hunters. Saber-toothed forms with long fangs, claws sharp enough to tear through prey. Their eyes glowed in the night, watching, waiting. The forests echoed with cries of life and death. For every gain, there was a risk. For every new form, there was a rival. And yet, mammals thrived. Their brains grew larger, their senses sharper. They learned to solve problems, to remember, to plan. These were subtle steps, almost invisible at first, but they were the foundation of everything that would follow. Intelligence was becoming a tool as sharp as any claw. Did you know that some of the earliest primates appeared around 55 million years ago? They were small, tree-dwelling creatures with grasping hands and forward-looking eyes. From them, one day, would come the lineage that led to us. But in those early forests, they were just another experiment of nature, clinging to survival. As the epochs passed, mammals became giants in their own right. Imagine walking across a plain 20 million years ago and seeing enormous creatures grazing, relatives of elephants, rhinos, and horses, towering above the grass. Imagine seeing predators like saber-toothed cats stalking quietly in their shadow. The age of mammals had truly begun. Their dominance was not sudden, but it was unstoppable. And yet, suspense lingered always, for Earth is never constant. Continents drifted, climates shifted, ice ages came and went. Each change brought new challenges. Entire species disappeared, and new ones rose, again and again. Mammals proved themselves resilient, bending but not breaking, adapting instead of fading. Now, reflect on this. The age of dinosaurs was defined by grandeur, size, and power, but it was also fragile. Toppled by a single cosmic strike, the age of mammals is defined by adaptability. Small beginnings leading to endless possibilities. It is a quieter kind of strength, one born of persistence rather than dominance. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine being one of those early primates in the trees. The night is cool, the stars gleam overhead. Your hands grip the branches. Your heart beats quickly as you listen for the rustle of predators below. Every moment is suspenseful, every day uncertain. And yet, you climb, you leap, you feed, you nurture your young, and so the story continues. There is something deeply comforting in this chapter of Earth's history, for it reminds us that greatness does not always begin with grandeur. Sometimes it begins in silence, in shadows, in fragile survival. Sometimes the future belongs not to the strongest, but to the most patient, the most adaptable, the ones who endure quietly until the world is ready for them. As you breathe deeply now, feel the resilience of those small mammals flowing into you. They survived cataclysm, darkness, hunger, and fear, and from their endurance, all of life as you know it has blossomed. Their story is your story, whispered down through millions of years, carried in your very cells. And as we leave this module, let the rustling of leaves fade. Let the scurrying of small mammals vanish into the underbrush. Ahead lies a new chapter, where primates will grow, societies will form, and sparks of intelligence will glow brighter in the darkness. For now, rest in the knowledge that survival itself is power, and from the humblest of beginnings, entire worlds can change. Have you ever wondered when the first glimmer of human-like thought appeared? When a creature looked at the world not just with instinct, but with curiosity? When survival became not just about claws and teeth, but about memory, problem-solving, and even imagination? Tonight, we drift into that mysterious chapter where primates begin their ascent, carrying with them the fragile flame of intelligence. Picture yourself in a dense forest 50 million years ago. The canopy stretches high above, a living ceiling of green. Shafts of sunlight filter through, warm and golden, beneath the branches. Movement is everywhere. Small primates leap from limb to limb, their fingers curling with precision, their eyes bright and forward-facing. They cling, they swing, they chatter softly. This is their world, a world of height, of agility, of endless possibility. One of these creatures pauses, tilts its head, and gazes at something strange, perhaps a stone, smooth and glittering, perhaps a fruit ripening in the light. For the first time, there is hesitation, consideration, thought. It is not instinct alone that guides this pause. It is the spark of awareness. Primates were different from other mammals. Their hands could grasp. Their eyes judged distance with remarkable clarity. Their brains grew more complex, wiring new connections that allowed them to solve problems, to remember the past, to plan for the future. Imagine one sitting in the fork of a tree, considering which branch would best bear its weight before leaping. It seems simple, but it is the seed of decision-making. Suspense fills this age, for intelligence is not guaranteed. A larger brain is costly, requiring more energy. It makes birth more difficult. It makes survival riskier. And yet, for some reason, this path continued. Nature gambled on thought, on problem solving, on the possibility of minds that could imagine tomorrow. Did you know that some of the earliest primates were nocturnal? Their large eyes gleamed in the moonlight as they hunted insects and fruit, navigating silently in the dark to survive the night. They relied not only on speed, but on awareness, listening for predators, planning escape routes. They became students of their environment. Every rustle, every shadow, a lesson in survival. As time passed, primates diversified. Some grew larger, living in groups that offered safety and companionship. Others remained small and solitary. Yet in many of them, social bonds began to take shape. Imagine grooming sessions where fingers delicately combed through fur, not just to remove pests, but to strengthen trust. Here, in these simple gestures, the roots of community began to grow. Now close your eyes and imagine one night millions of years ago. A storm sweeps across the forest. Trees bend and crack. Lightning splits the sky. Thunder shakes the ground. In a small shelter, a group of primates huddles together, their bodies pressed for warmth, their hands clutching one another. In this moment of fear, something remarkable happens. They do not scatter alone. They endure together. Fear is shared, and so is comfort. This too is intelligence, the intelligence of connection. Over millions of years, these bonds became stronger. Life in groups required communication. A cry could signal danger. A gesture could invite play. A posture could declare dominance or submission. Slowly, communication grew more sophisticated. Not yet language, but the architecture of language was forming. The building blocks of all the words you now know were laid in those ancient forests. Suspense lingered still. 4 predators remained. Great cats and snakes haunted the night. Survival was a constant test. Imagine a leopard stalking silently beneath the branches, eyes locked on a primate above. One mistake, one slip, could mean the end. And yet, cleverness gave the primates an edge. They remembered safe paths. They noticed patterns. They warned one another with calls. Their minds became their weapons. Sharper than claws, faster than fangs. Did you know that fossils suggest early primates already showed lateral thinking, using unexpected strategies to access food? Some may have dropped stones to crack nuts. Others used sticks to reach insects. These were not mere accidents, but sparks of creativity, evidence that thought itself was becoming an evolutionary advantage. As epochs passed, primates spread into new lands. Some left the forests for open grasslands, where survival demanded even more adaptation. On the ground, the threats were greater, but so were the opportunities. Here, intelligence deepened further, no longer shielded by trees. They had to anticipate danger from far away. They had to cooperate more closely. They had to innovate. The brain became not just an organ of survival, but an organ of imagination. And here, perhaps, lies the greatest suspense of all. The future of intelligence was still uncertain. A single drought, a single predator, a single catastrophe could have ended this fragile experiment. Yet somehow it did not. The flame endured, passed from mother to child, from generation to generation, whispering across time. Reflect for a moment on what that means. Every thought you have, every memory, every dream, is built on this long chain of survival. Without the grip of tiny hands on branches, without the bright eyes watching the shadows, without the spark of curiosity in a forest long gone, there would be no stories, no questions, no you now. Imagine drifting deeper into that forest night. The air is cool, the stars glimmer through the canopy. A primate curls around its young eyes, heavy with sleep above them. Constellations shine, the same stars you see tonight. They cannot name them, they cannot map them, but they gaze upward just as you do. Perhaps they wonder, in their own quiet way, about the lights above, and perhaps, in that moment, the very first dream of the cosmos begins. This is the dawn of intelligence, fragile, uncertain, but unstoppable. From these forests will come minds that can paint, compose, calculate, and imagine galaxies. From tiny sparks will come blazing stars of thought. And yet it is the root of everything. As we leave this module, let the forest sounds fade into the background. Hear the rustle of leaves soften. The calls of distant primates blend into the night. Ahead lies the story of how these beings will continue to evolve, growing taller, standing upright, and stepping into a world beyond the trees. For now, rest in the knowledge that within the smallest sparks lie the seeds of the greatest fires, and within you flows the same ancient current of thought that once stirred in the canopy. Have you ever wondered what it must have felt like to be the very first human to stand on the edge of a vast plain? Wind brushing against your skin, stars blazing above you, and to know, even without words, that you were something different, something set apart. Tonight, we wander into that mysterious moment, the dawn of humanity, when our ancestors first stepped beyond instinct and began to shape the world. Picture a landscape 2 million years ago, rolling grasslands dotted with acacia trees, rivers winding like silver threads through the land. Herds of animals roam freely, antelope, elephants, great cats, stalking in the tall grass. And there, among them, small groups of early humans walk upright, their heads turning, their eyes scanning. Their stride is cautious but purposeful. They are not the strongest, not the fastest, not the fiercest, and yet they carry something no other creature has: imagination. One of them bends to pick up a stone. It is jagged, heavy, sharp at the edges. With a few deliberate strikes, it changes. A tool is born. The first stone tool is not beautiful, not refined, but it is powerful. It can cut meat from bone, crack open marrow, scrape hides. With this, survival shifts. Nature is no longer an unyielding force. It becomes something that can be shaped. Now, imagine the suspense of those early nights. The sun has set, the air is cool, and darkness presses close. Predators stir in the shadows, eyes glowing with hunger. For most animals, night is a time of fear. But then, something extraordinary happens. A spark, small at first, a flicker, a branch catches flame. Light blossoms against the dark, heat radiates outward. Fire. Fire is unlike anything the world has ever seen in the hands of a creature. It banishes the night, it drives away predators. It cooks food, making it safer, easier to eat, and more than that, fire brings community. Imagine a circle of early humans gathered around a blaze, faces glowing in the light, eyes reflecting wonder. Around that fire, bonds deepen, stories begin, dreams take shape. Did you know that fire may have been tamed nearly 1 million years ago? though the first sparks were likely captured from natural flames, lightning strikes, or burning forests. To hold fire, to keep it alive through the night, was both a triumph and a responsibility. Fire became not just a tool, but a companion, a symbol of survival. Suspense lingers in this chapter, for every step forward is fragile. A misplaced spark can ignite disaster. A failed hunt can bring hunger. A predator can appear at any moment. Imagine standing on the open plain, holding a sharpened spear for the first time, a predator watching from the dark. The difference between life and death is no longer brute strength, but the courage to wield something new as humans continued to evolve. Their brains grew larger, their hands more skillful. Their tools became more refined axes, blades, scrapers, each invention built upon the last. And with tools came foresight, the ability to imagine not just today, but tomorrow, to prepare, to plan. The leap beyond instinct had begun. Now close your eyes and imagine the stillness of one of those ancient nights. The fire crackles, sparks rise into the star-filled sky. A human sits quietly, gazing upward. Perhaps they do not know the word stars, but they feel their mystery, their presence. For the first time, a creature is not only surviving, but wondering. What are those lights? Why are they there? The seeds of philosophy, of science, of story are planted in that gaze. Did you know that some of the earliest cave paintings, tens of thousands of years old, may depict not only animals, but constellations? It is possible that our ancestors looked at the stars and saw patterns, connecting dots across the heavens. The first stirrings of myth and meaning began with those upward glances. The suspense of this chapter is not in battles or catastrophes, but in fragile survival, for early humans lived on the edge. Small groups, wandering vast lands, always at risk, always vulnerable, and yet they endured. Not because they were the strongest, but because they shared knowledge, because they taught their children, because they cared for one another, because they remembered. Picture a mother teaching her child how to hold a tool, guiding tiny hands with patience. Picture elders around the fire, passing on wisdom, stories of hunts, warnings of danger. In these moments, memory itself becomes a tool. Each generation standing on the shoulders of the last, building something invisible but lasting. Reflect for a moment on what this means. The leap beyond instinct is not just about tools or fire. It is about memory, imagination, and connection. Humanity's strength lies not in muscle, but in mind, not in solitude, but in community. In the simple act of remembering, of sharing, of teaching, humanity became more than just another animal. As you breathe slowly now, imagine walking alongside these early humans on the plains. The sun sets, painting the horizon in gold and crimson. The air cools, and the group gathers close. They do not yet have words for comfort, for family, for love, but they feel them. They know them in the warmth of the fire, in the closeness of touch, in the safety of togetherness. The leap beyond instinct has begun, and with it, the long path toward everything that follows: art, science, music, language, civilization. All of it rests on these first steps, these fragile experiments in firelight and stone. And so, as we close this module, let the sound of the fire fade gently in your mind. Let the crackles soften, the sparks rise into darkness. Ahead lies the story of how these humans will spread, how language will grow, how culture will flourish. For now, rest in the glow of that first fire, knowing that its warmth still burns within you, carried across millions of years, lighting the path from the plains of Africa to the very stars above. Have you ever wondered what it must have been like to hear the first true word spoken by a human? To live in a world where sound was only cries, growls, and gestures, and then, suddenly, one day, a sound carried meaning, something that could be shared, remembered, repeated. Tonight, we step into that hidden dawn, the birth of language, the first spark of story. Picture a group of early humans gathered at dusk. The fire flickers, shadows stretch across the plain. They are silent, save for the crackle of flames and the distant calls of animals. Then one of them points toward the horizon, perhaps at a predator, perhaps at prey, and utters a sound. It is not random, not just a cry. It is intentional, a signal, and the others understand. Something has shifted. That moment, fragile and easily missed, is the beginning of a revolution greater than fire or stone tools. For with language, the mind stretches beyond what the eye can see. Language allows memory to leap across generations. Language allows ideas to take shape, to be shared, to be preserved. Did you know scientists believe the roots of language may stretch back hundreds of thousands of years? Some say it began with gestures, the movement of hands and faces. Others argue it was music before words, rhythms and tones that carried emotion long before they carried meaning. But somewhere, sometime, sound became symbol, and symbol became story. Imagine the suspense of that transformation. For without words, danger lurks in silence. A predator may be near, but no warning can travel beyond a single shout. Food may be found, but without words, it cannot be described. A memory may flicker in one mind, but it dies there if it cannot be spoken. Now, with language, all of this changes. The invisible becomes visible, the distant becomes near. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the first stories told by firelight. They are not written, not carved on stone, but carried in breath and sound. A hunter acts out the chase, adding words to movement. Others laugh, others gasp, and in that moment, a story is born. The story of the hunt, the story of danger, the story of triumph, stories that will be told again and again, long after the fire has died. Did you know that in many indigenous traditions, stories are said to be alive, to hold the memory of ancestors? It may have been the same for our earliest forebears, for the first stories were not entertainment. They were survival. They carried knowledge of where rivers flowed, where food was found, where predators prowled. Without story, life was fragile. With story, it endured. And yet, language is more than survival. It is connection. It is the soft murmur of comfort to a child, the call of belonging within a group, the first whispers of love. Imagine a mother's voice soothing her child under a starry sky. The words are simple, perhaps only sounds of reassurance, but they carry meaning deeper than instinct. They bind, they heal, they create trust. Suspense lingers here too, for every word is fragile, easily forgotten, easily lost. There are no books, no carvings, only memory. Each story must be carried carefully from one mouth to the next. One forgotten detail, one silence, and an entire piece of knowledge might vanish forever. Can you feel the tension, the delicate weight of memory balanced on breath? Picture now the stars overhead, glittering like ancient fires in the sky. Around the fire, one of the elders points upward. Their hands trace patterns, their voice speaks. Perhaps they tell of a great animal walking across the heavens. Perhaps they tell of ancestors shining above. In that moment, myth is born. The sky is no longer silent. It is alive with story. Did you know some of the oldest myths recorded thousands of years later describe the stars as hunters, animals, or ancestors? It may be that these stories stretch back tens of thousands of years, whispered by firelight long before they were ever written. Language allowed humans not only to survive, but to dream, to connect the earth to the heavens, the present to eternity. Reflect on how language transforms time itself. Without words, the past vanishes like smoke. With words, it lingers, carried from one generation to the next. Without words, the future is only instinct. With words, it is planned, imagined, shaped. Language bridges what was, what is, and what might be. Now imagine yourself sitting among them, the first humans who truly spoke. The fire warms your skin. The voices around you rise and fall. Some sounds are familiar, laughter, sighs, murmurs, but others are strange, new, carrying meanings just beyond your grasp. You do not know the words, but you feel their power, each one a spark, lighting minds, weaving bonds. Language also brought the first true suspense into human hearts. For with imagination came fear, not just of what is, but of what could be. To say, "The lion might return," is to carry the shadow of danger into tomorrow. To say, "We might starve," is to feel hunger even when food is still near. But it also gave birth to hope. To say, "We will find water," or "We will return to this place," is to carve a path forward. Did you know some scientists believe dreams themselves may have helped shape language? For dreams are stories of the mind, images strung together in strange but meaningful ways. Perhaps our ancestors awoke from their dreams and sought to share them, first with gesture, then with sound. Out of dreams may have come the first words as you breathe slowly. Think of the path you are walking with these ancient voices, from stone tools to fire, from cries to words, from silence to story. Each step carries humanity further from instinct, closer to imagination, closer to becoming something entirely new. And so, we leave this module in the glow of firelight. Voices rising into the night, the first songs, the first myths, the first stories float into the dark, carried upward to the stars. They are fragile, yet eternal, for you are still hearing them now. In every word spoken, every story told, every memory shared. The birth of language is the birth of us all. Have you ever wondered what it must have felt like to belong? Not just to a family, but to something larger. To walk the land not as a lone wanderer, but as part of a tribe, moving together like a single heartbeat. Tonight, we step into that fragile dawn. When humanity discovered the strength of many, the rise of tribes, and the birth of the first societies. Picture the ancient plains, wide and endless. Grass sways in the night breeze, the stars glitter above, and along the faint glow of firelight, a small group gathers, These are no longer just families. They are clusters of families bound together by blood, by survival, and most importantly, by story. Language, once just a spark, now grows into a flame. With it, rules are spoken, traditions are shared, decisions are made. A lone hunter may fall, but a group can defend. A single memory may fade, but a story told and retold binds them all together. And with every fire, every night, that story grows, until the group is no longer just people, it is a tribe. Did you know scientists believe some of the earliest tribes may have numbered only 50 to 100 souls, small enough to know every face, yet large enough to stand strong against predators and rivals? But imagine the suspense of such a life. For within the tribe there is safety, but beyond its edges, the unknown. Other groups wander too, some friendly, some hostile, and each meeting carries both hope and danger. Close your eyes and imagine two tribes meeting for the first time. They see each other across the plains, spears in hand, firelight glinting in their eyes. Do they fight or do they speak? The suspense hangs heavy. For in this fragile moment lies the future of humanity, conflict or cooperation, war or alliance. When they speak, perhaps trading food, perhaps exchanging stories, something extraordinary happens. Culture begins. The stories of one group mingle with the stories of another. Symbols are shared, songs are remembered. The world of one tribe merges with another, and humanity takes its first trembling step toward society. Picture a night long ago. A group sits around a fire. An elder speaks. Their voice is slow, rhythmic, carrying not just memory but meaning. This is how we hunt, they say. This is where the rivers run, they remind. This is who we are, they declare. The young listen, wide-eyed, for the words are more than instructions. They are identity, they are belonging. Did you know anthropologists believe the first rules of justice may have been spoken here? Not carved in stone, but etched in memory. Do not steal from your kin. Do not harm without reason. These simple rules, enforced by shame, by story, by tradition, were the earliest laws, and they were carried not by courts or kings, but by firelight and memory. Suspense flows even deeper here. For what happens when rules are broken? Imagine a hunter who keeps more than his share, or a voice that defies the elder. Without prisons, without walls, justice must be carried by trust and fear. Some are cast out, some are silenced, and in those moments, the tribe learns what it means to protect itself. The first steps of society are fragile, yet unshakable. Now imagine walking with them by day. The tribe moves like a single organism, children laughing at the edges, hunters scanning the horizon, women carrying baskets, elders speaking softly. Each has a role, each belongs alone. None would last long. Together they flourish. This is humanity's great leap, survival through community. And as tribes grew, so too did imagination. Language allowed not only the sharing of rules, but the dreaming of futures. A voice says, when the rains come, we will return to this place. Another says, when the animals move, we will follow. Planning is born. Strategy takes shape with words. Time itself bends, no longer just the present, but past and future. Did you know some of the earliest carvings and cave paintings may have served as tribal memory, records of hunts, maps of stars, marks of belonging? These were not just art, but symbols of identity, they whispered. We were here, they declared. This is us. Now imagine the stories told of origins. Around the fire, voices speak of where they came from. Perhaps they say they were shaped from clay, or that they were born from the stars above. Perhaps they say a great animal gave them life, or that their ancestors still walk in the night sky. These myths were more than tales. They were the glue that held the tribe together. For to belong to a tribe was to share its story, to know its beginnings, to walk in its myths. Suspense deepens as tribes begin to grow larger. Imagine 2 or 3 groups joining together, forming something greater. Here lies both promise and peril. For unity brings strength, but it also brings conflict. Who leads? Whose story is told? Whose memory shapes the whole? These fragile negotiations, spoken by firelight, whispered in secrecy, argued in daylight, are the first steps toward politics, and from politics comes power. Imagine the rise of the first leaders, not kings in crowns, but voices that carried weight. Elders whose words shaped action, hunters whose bravery earned respect, mothers whose wisdom guided the young leaders. But by need, and with them came hierarchy. The tribe was no longer equal, but it was stronger. Did you know some researchers suggest that laughter itself was an early tool of tribes, a way to ease tension, to bond, to release the weight of fear? Imagine the fire crackling, the tribe laughing together at a story told. That sound was not just joy, it was unity, a force that made strangers into kin. Picture again the endless plain, the stars shining overhead, the fire flickering. The tribe sleeps close together. A child stirs and is comforted. A hunter wakes and listens to the night. The world beyond may be filled with danger, but within this circle there is safety, belonging, identity. And as you breathe deeply now, consider the suspense of this fragile new world. Without tribes, there is no future with them. There is both hope and risk, for as humanity learns to gather, it also learns to clash. The first wars, the first alliances, the first bonds of love and betrayal, all are born here, in the circle of the tribe. So tonight, as we leave them beneath the stars, let us carry their voices with us. For in every family, in every community, in every society today, the echoes of those first tribes remain. The warmth of belonging, the weight of rules, the promise of shared story. These are the threads that stretch from firelight long ago to the present moment now. Have you ever wondered what it must have felt like to see the first seed sprout beneath human hands? To watch the earth itself respond to care, to discover that life could be coaxed, nurtured, and harvested rather than chased or gathered. Tonight we step into that quiet, fragile revolution, the dawn of agriculture, the beginning of settled life. Picture the endless wandering of tribes, season after season, following herds, chasing rains, carrying fire from one camp to the next. For thousands of years, this was the rhythm of life, constant movement, fragile survival. But imagine now a moment of pause. A woman stoops by a riverbank. She presses a seed into the soil. Days pass, rains fall, and then something miraculous. A green shoot pierces the ground, food from the earth itself, not hunted, not gathered by chance, but grown. Did you know scientists believe agriculture first arose in different parts of the world almost simultaneously? Around 10,000 years ago, in the Fertile Crescent of Mesopotamia, in the valleys of China, in the highlands of New Guinea, in the forests of Central America, humans everywhere began to notice the same truth that the earth, if tended, could provide. Close your eyes and imagine the suspense of those first plantings. A tribe depends on the harvest, but the rains may not come. Pests may devour, storms may destroy. Every seed is both hope and risk, every sprout a fragile promise. For the first time, humans wait, bound not to the chase of the herd, but to the slow rhythm of growth. With agriculture comes settlement. Picture the first villages, clusters of huts by rivers and plains, smoke rising in gentle columns, children laughing between rows of growing plants. Hunters still set out, but more and more, the tribe's life depends on what grows near home. The ground beneath their feet becomes not just soil, but identity. This is where they belong. Did you know that some of the earliest permanent homes, built in places like Catalyak in Turkey, were made of mud brick and connected like honeycomb? Families lived side by side, climbing across rooftops to visit one another. The tribe had become a village. The fire circle had become a neighborhood. Humanity was building roots. Suspense lingers here too, for with farming comes both abundance and vulnerability. When the harvest is good, there is more food than ever before. Bellies full, children growing strong. But when the harvest fails, famine strikes deeper than the worst hunt. And so, rituals are born. Humans lift their eyes to the sky, offering thanks for rain, pleading for mercy in drought. Religion itself grows from the soil of uncertainty. Picture a night in one of these early villages. The fields stretch into the dark, the stars shimmer above. Families gather inside mud brick homes, sharing bread made from the grain they have grown. The taste is unlike anything before, food born of patience. Food that carries the memory of months, of seasons. It is not just nourishment. It is time itself, held in the palm of a hand. Did you know that with agriculture came the first true surpluses? For the first time, not everyone needed to hunt or gather. Some could stay behind, crafting tools, shaping clay into vessels, painting walls with symbols. And from surplus came trade. Villages exchanged grain for obsidian, seeds for shells, stories for stories. Goods for goods, the web of human connection widened. Now imagine the suspense of neighbors. Once, tribes could wander away from conflict. Now, settled in place, they faced each other across fields and rivers. Some traded, some fought. Walls rose around villages. Spears were sharpened not just for animals, but for other humans. The first battles for land began here, in the soil of settled life. But beyond danger, something wondrous was taking shape. Agriculture gave humanity time to think, to dream, to create. Cave paintings grew into carvings, carvings into symbols, symbols into the first writing. The earth did not just feed the body, it began to feed the mind. Imagine the rhythm of days in these first farming villages. Dawn begins with tending the fields, children scatter to play. Elders tell stories beneath shaded trees. At night, fires glow from doorways, songs rise into the starry sky. The cycle of life is no longer wild and unpredictable, but patterned, predictable. The seasons themselves become a calendar. Did you know the first calendars may have been marked by the phases of the moon and the path of the stars? Farmers lifted their eyes as often as they bent to the soil, for the sky told them when to plant, when to reap, when to prepare for the coming cold. Astronomy itself may have been born from the needs of farmers. The heavens became a clock, and yet suspense whispers still, for permanence changes everything. Once humans moved with the herds, leaving behind the dead, the broken, the past. Now they stayed, burying ancestors in the soil near their homes. The land was not just food, but memory. And with memory came legacy. The earth itself became sacred. Picture the weight of this new belonging. A child born in a village grows up knowing the same fields, the same river, the same walls. They are no longer just a wanderer of the plains. They are a keeper of land, a bearer of tradition. The tribe has become something larger, a people. Did you know some of the oldest temples, such as Göbekli Tepe, were built not by wandering hunters, but by settled farmers and their descendants? Great stones raised in circles, carved with animals, standing as monuments to belief. These were not mere shelters, but places where humans gathered not for survival, but for meaning. Agriculture gave them that. The time to wonder, the need to hope, the drive to create. Reflect for a moment on how suspense and wonder twine here. For the dawn of agriculture is not just the story of seeds. It is the story of everything to come. Cities, writing, trade, religion, war, art, empire, all are born when the first seed takes root. Now, imagine yourself there, walking between the huts of an early village. The smell of baking bread drifts in the air. The fields ripple in the evening breeze. Children chase one another through rows of crops. Elders sit together, speaking of seasons, of ancestors, of the stars. You feel the pulse of permanence. The earth itself hums with possibility. And so we leave this module standing in that moment, between fragility and abundance, between hope and fear, between the wild chase of the old world and the slow, steady growth of the new. The dawn of agriculture is not just a step in history. It is the threshold of civilization itself. Have you ever wondered what it must have felt like to stand at the gates of the world's first city, to hear the hum of thousands of voices blending into a living chorus, to see streets filled with people, markets alive with trade, walls rising like mountains of stone? Tonight we step into that moment, when humanity's scattered villages grew into the first cities, the pulse of civilization itself. Picture the shift. For tens of thousands of years, humans lived in tribes and small farming villages. Each group knew every face, every story, every field. But now, something astonishing happens. Villages grow larger, trade expands, temples rise. More people gather than ever before, until the old circle of firelight is replaced by walls and streets. Humanity has made the leap into urban life. Did you know one of the earliest known cities, Uruk, in Mesopotamia, may have held tens of thousands of people as early as 5,000 years ago? Imagine the scale of that in a world where most had never seen more than a few dozen souls at once. To enter Uruk was to feel the immensity of human ambition. Close your eyes and imagine walking those early streets. Dust rises beneath your feet. Stone walls tower, voices echo. A marketplace hums with barter. Grain for cattle, clay pots for obsidian, cloth for shells. Every exchange, not just survival, but culture. Trade weaving humans into a web larger than blood or tribe. But with such wonder comes suspense. For in the city lies both promise and peril. The harvests may feed thousands. But what if they fail? The walls may protect. But what if enemies come? Leaders may govern. But what if their power grows to great? The city is alive, yet fragile, breathing with both hope and fear. Picture the great temples of these cities. Ziggurats rising like stairways to the heavens. Their steps climbed by priests carrying offerings. Smoke rising into the sky. Did you know that in these temples were not just religious centers, but also hubs of administration and trade? They kept records, stored food, organized labor. The temple was heart and mind of the city, beating steadily with ritual and order. And beneath the temple walls, writing is born. For how can a city remember all its trades, all its offerings, all its people without symbols? At first, it is marks on clay, tallying grain, counting sheep, but soon, symbols bloom into words, words into stories, stories into history. The city gives birth to writing, and writing gives birth to memory that never fades. Did you know the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the world's first great works of literature, was born in Uruk? It told of kings and gods, of quests and floods, of mortality and meaning already. Humanity was weaving myth and history together, binding the city not just with walls of brick, but with walls of story. Imagine the streets at night. Torches flicker along walls. Merchants pack away their wares. Families gather in courtyards. Children fall asleep to the hum of the city, unlike the silence of the plains. The city never truly sleeps. Somewhere, a potter works by firelight. Somewhere, guards patrol the walls. Somewhere, scribes mark clay tablets. The pulse of civilization beats even in darkness. Suspense sharpens here, for with cities come hierarchies. Power gathers not only in leaders, but in kings. The voice of one begins to shape the fate of thousands. Imagine the weight of that. A decree spoken in a palace may decide who eats and who starves, who is honored and who is cast out. The first cities are not only marvels, they are cages of order, and yet cities bring wonders never seen before. Imagine music echoing from temples, great festivals where thousands gather to dance, to feast, to sing. Imagine artisans carving jewelry, weaving cloth, shaping metal, each trade born from time that only surpluses allow. A city is a hive of creation, every hand shaping something new, every voice adding to the chorus. Did you know that in ancient Egypt, cities along the Nile were not just centers of trade, but centers of knowledge? Priests studied the stars, mapped the heavens, calculated the flooding of the river. In the cities of the Indus Valley, streets were laid out with precision. Drains carried water away. Planning shaped life long before modern times. Humanity was learning not just to survive, but to design. Now imagine the tension of strangers. In a village, every face is known. In a city, most faces are not. Suspicion grows. Trust must be built in new ways. and so law is born. Hammurabi's code in Babylon carved rules into stone, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Justice itself rises from the crowded streets. Picture again the skyline of Uruk. Ziggurats looming, towers rising, walls stretching. The city is not only a home but a fortress. For as it grows rich, it grows a target armies march. Gates are tested, battles roar, suspense deepens. For to live in a city is to live behind walls. Safe yet threatened, abundant yet exposed. And yet, within those walls, imagination soars. Poets sing, scribes record, children learn. Stories cross from one culture to another. Carried by merchants and wanderers, ideas spread faster than ever before. The city is a crucible of exchange, a forge of civilization. Did you know that even in their fragility, some of these first cities lasted for centuries, feeding generations, shaping the world long after their founders were gone? Their ruins still stand, silent but unyielding, whispers of the first heartbeats of urban life. Reflect for a moment on the awe of this transformation. From the hush of wandering tribes to the murmur of villages, from the murmur of villages to the roar of cities, humanity had become something entirely new. No longer a scattered species of survivors, but builders, dreamers, architects of civilization. Now, close your eyes and imagine yourself stepping into Uruk, into Memphis, into Mohenjo-Daro. The streets are alive with sound. The walls shimmer in the heat. The air is thick with spice, smoke, and dust. You walk through markets, temples, palaces. You feel the hum of thousands around you. You are no longer alone beneath the stars. You are part of something vast. And so we leave this module with the pulse of the city beating in our ears. The first cities are both fragile and eternal, filled with beauty and shadow, with wonder and suspense. They are the beginning of civilization's great story, and their heartbeat still echoes now. In every modern street, in every market, in every city alive today. Have you ever wondered why the first great civilizations rose beside rivers? Why humanity's earliest empires clung to their winding paths as though they were threads of destiny? Tonight we drift along those waters, where harvests were born, where cities rose, where empires flourished, and where the murmur of rivers carried both promise and peril. Picture yourself standing at dawn beside the Nile. The mist lingers over the water. The sun paints the river gold. Farmers bend in the fields, drawing life from its steady flood. Year after year, the Nile overflows, leaving behind dark soil, rich as treasure. Without this rhythm, Egypt would be barren desert. With it, Egypt becomes the breadbasket of the ancient world. Did you know the Egyptians called their land Kemet, named for the dark, fertile soil left after the Nile's flooding? For them, the river was not just water. It was God. It was giver of life, shaper of fate. The entire civilization pulsed with its flow. Every harvest, every festival, every prayer was tied to its rise and fall. Suspense lingered in every season. Would the river rise enough to feed the people, or too much and drown the fields? Now turn eastward to Mesopotamia, the land between two rivers, the Tigris and Euphrates. Unlike the steady Nile, these rivers were unpredictable. Their floods could be fierce, sudden, merciless. Yet from this danger came innovation. Canals, levees, and irrigation systems were carved into the land. Humanity's first great works of engineering born from the need to tame water. Suspense lived in every storm cloud, every flood surge. Life or death flowed with the river's mood. And in the Indus Valley, rivers sculpted entire cities. Mohenjo-daro and Harappa thrived on their waters. Streets were carefully laid, drains carried waste away. Water shaped not only survival, but design. Imagine walking their gridded roads, hearing the trickle of water moving through planned channels. Civilization itself mirrored the order of rivers. Did you know the Yellow River in China was called China's sorrow? Its floods were so devastating that they could sweep away entire towns. Yet its waters carried loess, fertile yellow soil that nourished fields for miles. Suspense was carved into the very name of the river, life and destruction flowing side by side. To live there was to trust the unpredictable, to bow before nature's might. Close your eyes and imagine the silence of night beside these waters. Torches flicker along the banks. Priests chant prayers for safe floods. Families lie awake, wondering if tomorrow their fields will flourish or drown. The suspense of rivers was not a storm to be avoided. It was a storm to be lived with. But rivers were not only lifelines of crops. They were highways, carrying boats laden with goods. Traders drifting downstream with timber, grain, copper, and stone. Ideas floated as easily as cargo from one city to another. Myths and inventions traveled along water. The rivers were veins of trade, and with them, the first networks of connection were born. Imagine a boat gliding down the Nile. Sails catch the wind, fishers cast nets, merchants argue over prices of grain and gold. Priests prepare offerings, children laugh at the river's edge. The water carries more than goods. It carries culture, and with every bend of the river, new possibilities appear. Yet suspense sharpened with every voyage. For rivers could bless, but also betray. Pirates lurked, storms struck, waters shifted course. Entire ports could vanish in silt. To build on a river's edge was to risk everything. And yet humanity could not resist, for where the water flowed, so did life. Did you know that entire empires rose and fell on rivers? Babylon flourished because of the Euphrates. The Persian Empire stretched along waterways that fed its armies. Rome itself grew strong by mastering river trade before it mastered the seas. To control a river was to control destiny. To lose it was to lose power. Picture the suspense of a king in Mesopotamia. Watching the river rise, priests stand beside him, reading omens from the water's flow. Will the flood bring abundance or ruin? Will the people praise him as chosen or curse him as cursed? Even rulers bowed before the river's will. But rivers were also places of story. In Egypt, the Nile was tied to Osiris, god of life and death. In Mesopotamia, the rivers were seen as gifts and curses of the gods. In India, the Ganges was and still is sacred, seen as a living goddess. To bathe in her waters was to be cleansed of sin. Suspense was not just survival, it was spiritual. For rivers were divine voices speaking in floods and droughts. Now picture yourself drifting downstream at night. The stars shimmer above. The water reflects them like a mirror. You hear the creak of the boat, the ripple of current, the distant chant of prayers around the bend. Torches glow from a city's edge, civilization awaits, born of the river. Carried by its flow, yet always tension lingers. A single drought can starve thousands. A single flood can bury years of labor. Cities rise in glory, then crumble when rivers shift course. Did you know that some believe the Indus Valley civilization declined when rivers dried or changed path? Suspense lingers not only in battlefields, but in the silent course of nature itself. And so the river teaches humanity resilience. To build dikes, to dig canals, to plan for disaster. Suspense turns into innovation. From these waters came mathematics to measure, calendars to predict floods, laws to manage water rights. Rivers were not only challenges, they were teachers, shaping minds as much as fields. Reflect on this. Rivers were the first clocks, marking time in floods and droughts. The first roads carrying goods and people. The first borders defining territories. The first teachers demanding adaptation. Without them, there would be no Egypt, no Mesopotamia, no Harappa, no China. They were the true architects of empire. Now close your eyes and imagine standing on the banks of the Euphrates at sunset. The air is heavy with heat. The river glimmers like fire behind you. The city of Babylon hums with life before you. The water stretches toward the horizon. It is not just a river. It is the lifeblood of empire. It is the suspense of survival, the wonder of abundance, the mystery of time itself. And so, we leave this module with the sound of rivers echoing in our ears. The Nile, the Tigris, the Indus, the Yellow River. Each carried humanity forward. Each offered both cradle and coffin. They were the pulse of the earth beneath our feet, flowing with suspense and meaning, guiding us into the rise of empires.